Did you hear that, Irv? No. That we voted this morning for PPRTA Executive Director?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
is our Executive Director, too. Yeah, that's good.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's right.
Did you get a good one?
I think so.
Awesome. I like great. I like great better than good.
They would have all been fine, but he was at least my choice. We need no staff. Felt really good.
Last week you were asking on Pike Street Greenway. So originally, but I'll talk about it, but I just want to show you because you're the one. So in 15 we had 1.1 million in there. Pure greenway. In 16 we put 2.021 million. So we had $1,021,000, then we had another million for the bridge. So there's 3 million in total. 2 of it goes to the pedestrian bridge, and there's $1 million for travel. 1.1 is for $700,000.
Jim?
We don't have a yeah. Okay, yeah. Mark, how you doing?
Well, how are you?
Oh, good.
Two Rice Krispie treats we've been working out?
Yeah. Two. It's to honor.
He can have 3.
See,
He's obviously been working out.
it's to honor Nicole.
Oh, yes.
Hey, Nicole, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
See ya.
Are there two reasons? Come on.
Thanks. A little different. I'm going a little bit different.
A little over $2 million.
He's going for the Don Draper look.
So, and we haven't spent that, so that's
You know House of Cards?
it's coming out of that one.
House of Cards? What? Yeah, Don Draper from House of Cards. Not Don Draper. But it's Don Draper from House of Cards. Or not House of Cards, I'm sorry, Mad Men. Yeah, Netflix.
Yeah, but it's I mean,
Really?
it's trash. I mean, I actually was starting going back and say, wait, what have we done here? So it's all part of stuff. Okay.
Hang out with my kid. There. Too much talking to her.
Oh, I just did. Well, I skip hanging out with my kids. I really don't work all that hard either.
So you got plenty of time for
So yeah. I put like 5 hours a month into this county commissioner thing. That's what I do.
It was a 60s setting. These guys, you know, that are all advertising. So they're just,
It's awesome.
yeah. So they're like the whole, you know, main business, you know, the women are secretaries.
It's all about drinking and smoking and doing all sorts of terrible stuff.
Bank dealings, yeah. Backroom dealings.
You should get a whole bunch of people together and do that for Halloween.
Yeah. It is. It's terrible. I'm doing well. How are you? Oh, how are things out in the township of Rama? Good. You guys keep a turner in line?
Hey, Murph.
How you doing, buddy?
Oh, good to see you.
Yeah, he wasn't here. Tell him we kicked him off the board since he wasn't here. Turner, you're not here, you're gone, pal.
He'd probably say, you mean I don't have to write a letter of resignation?
Yeah. Or you could tell him we elected him chair next year.
Do you want to read this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. That way we can spread it
And
out.
share the wealth.
Yeah.
There he is. How are you? How you doing?
What kind of mess were you guys making here earlier?
No, that's your friend Jill. I sit over in Lohino's spot.
Normally, I got
Jill, that's probably,
I think we're off one.
wait, where am I supposed to, Am I on the side of the?
You know, I've sat there for way too many years. It's time to change it up.
Sit here. No, that's cool.
Mark's messing things up.
Wait, what am I doing? Where am I supposed to be? Usually you sit there. Do I?
That is Ken Jerez. I know him.
Can we all move one seat to the left?
Tyler had to sit here. Tyler was normally sitting here. I was sitting next to you all the time.
Tyler can't sit somewhere. He's one of you. This makes him real. Plus, I'm sitting. This is like Jill Gabler did biological warfare. She was me. I'm the one. Yes. Man. Yeah, it was a little. We didn't start it, but it was funny.
I love it.
Well, Bill, you can tell Bill knew he was it by his counter response.
Wait, I didn't.
Letting Stan know first color. Stabilization.
I won't be driving with that.
Close it down all you want.
That's out by Nicholas. That's out by Nichols area.
Yeah, so I left this Friday. Hopefully, in 2 days, Friday.
Multiple days?
How you gonna get home, Tyler?
You're gonna have to climb up the creek.
You're telling me? Yeah, and mine's, well, you drive from a lot further than I do. Did you hear who won the contest? Who won?
Oh, no. I thought you meant the PPCG
Oh,
contest.
yeah. No, I mean the real one, the
Oh, I
Christmas store
haven't-
decorating
I
contest.
haven't heard.
Again, I got the word.
Okay, I just wanted to let you know.
I just responded back to, who sent me a text. They did have a question, is, press release.
We're working on it. They rose. I gave them a heads up. I gave
That's awesome.
at first nature.
If he's in Kelvin,
Good job, right? See, we're on top. Sorry, gentlemen. Busy day.
Dave told me about the I came over trying to air it out.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, we just want to make sure that everybody's safe, right? Nobody gets to get hurt over the road. Not today, anyway. Of that? Just part of the just part of the project cost.
Okay, I think we'll get started. Want to thank everybody for being here. We do have a quorum. In fact, I think we have a full board here today. I do want to make an announcement. City Council, Colorado Springs City Council had a celebration this last week. One of our new council members has been with his new owner for a year. That's Puma. And we celebrated that. I've told these folks up here, but telling you, we consider Puma the best looking male city council member that we have in Colorado Springs. I haven't had anybody disagree with that because he's a good looking boy. So,
The most agreeable.
he is the most agreeable. That's true, David. You have in front of you the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. Is there any time right now we'd like to open it up for public comments? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on an item that's not on the agenda? Yes, if you'd come forward, please.
My name is Rick Hoover. I'm an executive, the president of the executive board for Kono. I'd like to extend to all and remind to some that we're having our Christmas party this afternoon, and we'd love for you to come by for some hearty whores and some adult beverages. So, from
Wow, Rick,
5 to 7:30.
do you realize the danger of asking elected officials to come to a party?
Well, this will be the fourth year, and we've kicked it up pretty good. So, please come by and enjoy us.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak to an item that's not on our agenda? Okay, we'll move forward then. We do have a recognition of appreciation and for Nicole Nicoletta that I'm going to ask our Vice Chair, Mark Waller, if he would read this resolution, then I'll be asking for a motion to approve.
Yeah, we have a resolution here to honor and thank Mayor Nicoletta for all that she's done for the RTA and quite frankly, not just the RTA, but for our entire community. I know your service spans way beyond the jurisdictional boundaries of your jurisdiction there in Manitou Springs. So thank you for all you've done for our entire community. It's a resolution by the Pikes Peak Rural Transit Authority Board of Directors acknowledging appreciation to City of Manitou Springs Mayor Nicole Nicoletta, dated December 13th, 2017. Whereas the City of Manitou Springs is a member government of the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority, and whereas Nicole Nicoletta served as the City of Manitou Springs Mayor from 2016 through 2017, where she served as the Pikes Peak RTA Board Director her entire term as mayor, and whereas the City of Manitou Springs Director Nicole Nicoletta has served the citizens of the City of Manitou Springs and the Pikes Peak region with distinction. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority Board of Directors wishes to acknowledge their deepest gratitude to the City of Manitou Springs Director for her commitment to the regional transportation planning and projects, for her wise counsel, and for her dedication to the advancement of the transportation projects of the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. Resolved, approved, and adopted by the Board of Directors of the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority this 13th day of December 2017 at Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Make a motion.
It's signed by the chair, Merv Bennett, attested to by Rick Sonnenberg, and I move that we adopt this resolution.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Well, Nicole, we have, this is intended to be a poor joke, but we're going to give you this hard hat. Since you just went through an election, it's probably a late gift, but let me present this to you, and want you to have a copy of the resolution.
Thank you.
And here's the hard hat that we give, and if you'd like to make some comments, we'd love to hear.
Sure, thank you. Thank you.
You bet.
Oh, picture? Yeah.
Oh, we're doing a picture?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you all come?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's all get in here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Turn around backwards, see Nicolette on the back.
we
There you go. That's good.
That's all right. Excuse me.
Ken, you can jump up here if you want to do it up in here.
We got a couple more to get in here, so are we good?
You in? Okay. Good, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Before Nicole says anything, we do have some Rice Krispie treats back here that were there specifically for Nicole. And to honor Nicole, I got two. Yeah.
Very kind of you.
I'll just real quick. It's been an absolute treat to be on this board. Like I said this morning with PPACG, it is just so nice to be around professional and intellectual folks who have just an authentic desire to serve the community, and it's very, very nice. And I hope that whatever I do a ton already, but whatever I additionally do, I hope that all the meetings I go to are run the way that Merv Bennett runs his meetings.
That's nice. Wow. Thank you, Nicole. Well, we are very honored in the PPRTA to have some incredible people that we work with, which certainly makes, and when it comes to the people that do the hard work on PPRTA is done in the CAC, Citizens Advisory Committee. So, Jim, if you would come forward, and let's have Dr. Jim Knoll come forward. We want to recognize you, Jim. And let me read this while you're walking up. The Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority wishes to acknowledge its deepest gratitude to Dr. Jim Knoll for his invaluable contribution to the PPRTA Citizens Advisory Committee, and he served from October of 2011 to December of 2017. Jim, did you?
Can't be that old.
Mr. Godfrey, do you have any comments you want to make? You can make them there.
Okay.
Yes, Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. Dr. Knoll and I go back to the PPACG CAC time.
Too far back. Okay.
Where he was a transportation rep. And so, but from a PPRTA CAC, his vast background in the history of transportation needs and things in the city of Colorado Springs goes way back to his time on city council and other places. And so he's been a valuable member of the CAC, and he's always had really good suggestions and really good comments on things. And so, Jim, Dr. Knoll, I'd like to say thank you for your help and your contribution over all the years, and best of luck to you in the future.
I like being called Jim. Boy, I tell you, this is old home week.
It is.
It really is.
I don't call him Dr. Knoll. It's Councilman Knoll for me. But thank you, Jim. You've done incredible work for us.
Thank you very much. I would like to make about a 2-hour speech, but I won't.
Thank you.
One of the reason I came here and served, I taught state and local government. I didn't know a damn thing about local government. You know, it's really interesting. And I thought, well, maybe sooner or later, one of these older students, average age something like 39 or something, was going to ask me a question I couldn't answer. And so then I got interested in running.
A weak moment.
Yeah, in a weak moment. But in all honesty, it was the most fabulous experience of my life. People came here to put in their time, and you didn't have to worry about paying them very much.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And so I learned so much about local government from here. I taught state and local government. I'd never been in local government, and I always thought you just can't read the book and teach. And so I met an awful lot of good people who still sit around here and learned a lot about local government. And I think I'd like to thank the institution as well as the people.
Okay. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have one other individual who could not be here today that we also want to recognize. And so, Jim, I'm going to read this, and then if you could make sure he gets this, I would appreciate it. Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority wishes to acknowledge its deepest gratitude to Jake Michael for his invaluable contribution to the PPRTA Citizens Advisory Committee, March of 2015 to December of 2017. Maybe you might be able to say a few words.
Yeah, I would like to comment briefly on Jake. Jake is one of the engineers in the group, the traffic engineer, and among other things. And so he brings a very valuable technical expertise as well. Jake's job and stuff, just we're getting to the point where he could no longer keep his commitment faithfully, and so he's decided to not run for re-election in that position. But we certainly absolutely appreciate Jake's level-headed, deeply technical advice that he gives and works for the committee, so we appreciate it.
All right, thank you. If you could make sure he knows our deep appreciation,
I'll
we
do that.
appreciate it.
I'll do
Thank
that.
you. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the November 8th regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay.
That was a double second.
Jim, don't get too far away. It's time for your report from the Citizens Advisory Committee monthly report.
Again, Jim Godfrey from the CAC. We had a really good meeting, covered a lot of information, so I'll just cover the highlights. First of all, City of Colorado Springs, in your packet today, brought forward, if not counting 127 items in the last bullet, about 11 different contracts. A lot of them were, several of them were relining corrugated metal pipe that was deteriorating, that lining process and program that they've got. They did have about 4 or 5 roadway maintenance supply-like things for the glass beads they put down on striping and some of those kinds of things. We discussed the Academy over Cottonwood Creek project that's finally kicking off in 2018 for the design consulting part of that contract. And also on the Dublin Boulevard widening right up near Powers where it goes to 2 lanes from 4. They've got a request to do some land purchases as part of moving that project forward. And then, like I said, they've got about 120-some annual renewal contracts. You've got them all on your list. We've looked at all of those. One of the things we looked at, as we've discussed in these meetings before, is it time to recompete any of those, or are they just 5-year contracts with 1-year renewals? And so we did talk to the city about that, and we're all satisfied with what the process that they're using for those. And then we bifurcated one contract out and voted on it contingent, and it had to do with Pikes Peak Greenway, construction of a trail under Uinta Street. It wasn't the trail we were concerned about, but not sure at the time of where the funding was coming from. When we tried to think back over the years, this was the pot of money that they have up to $3.5 million for that PED bridge thing. And when we looked at the budget, we weren't sure that they had enough money in it to do this and what they were proposing to do. We passed recommending an approval based on the city providing us a little bit of a history on the flow of funding within that particular program. Once we arrived today, Mike Chavez of the city provided Reb and I those fundings, and we're satisfied with their budget trail at that point. There was some money that goes back to 2015 budget that they hadn't spent that they're using to do this with, so we're satisfied with that and would continue to make a recommendation for that project. You'll also see in your packet during the discussion over GAP funding and using RTA funds for GAP, we never really designated what years that we would target to take the extra funding from the funding over budget. We never designated that. I think at the last board meeting you asked us to try to come up with some language for that. So in your packet are some proposed language designating the 2 years, 18 and 19, to be targeted for those for that project.
Yeah, Jim, just to clarify to the board, we had those years in our discussion. It just wasn't written down.
It wasn't codified anywhere, and we felt like that it would be best to codify this in case somebody starts to.
We'll fix that today.
So, thank you, sir. And then the city had a request to Board Policy 12. It's a policy that we use for larger projects to raise the threshold on change orders, so the percent of the total project for thresholds, and so the city will describe that, and we make recommended approval for that as well. And then we had a great presentation by Mr. Farkas of Streets on the combination of work that they did with PPRTA, their internal general fund, and also on 2C. And that information is available. I don't believe Mr. Farkas is going to present that to you guys today, but I think in the future we will. It's a very informative briefing, and it combines exactly, it points out exactly the fantastic work that these guys are doing for our city and the street. So, and then last but not least, certainly not least, Karen Rowe came and talked to us about the GAP project, and I think you'll have some of that discussion today as well. So, but that was all from the GAP. Does have any questions?
Any questions for Jim? Jim, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good report. Appreciate it. Okay, is there a motion to accept their report? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. Bev, there you are. You're hiding behind the post over there for the financial report. And then after we do the financial report, we'll have our public hearing for the budget. Yes, Jim, did you have something you wanted to say?
I forgot one thing, even though it was on my notes. Thank you for supporting the CAC, Mayor Nicolette.
Thanks, Jim.
Good afternoon. Beverly Majewski, PPRTA Finance Manager. So on the first page of your financial report today, we received $8,672 for the month compared to $8,847,000. So we were $175,000 below the monthly budget. And last month we were $883,000 below the monthly budget, but $500,000 of it was really, this month was really from last month, so kind of evens it out a little bit more. But we are running behind the monthly budget since the month of August due to the hailstorms, the receipts being so high last year. So that...
Is there any questions for Bev? We used to call her Good News Bev, and she hasn't lost that moniker yet, but...
Well, bad news, Bev, kind of rings a little.
Yeah, you're still 15,000 to the good. All right.
Decent news, Bev.
Decent.
Bev, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
With that, let me go to the next agenda item, which is the 2018 budget public hearing and approval of the budget. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing to the audience regarding the 2018 budget. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the board related to the 2018 budget? I don't see any hands raised, so I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve the 2018 budget as presented.
I move to approve.
Is there a second? All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? All right. Thanks, Bev.
Do we need a motion for the two resolutions to adopt? Well, you already did one for adopting the budget, but for appropriating the funds?
Okay. Is there a motion to appropriate the funds according to the 2018 budget?
So moved.
Dave, you second that? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Did that do it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the City of Colorado Springs Capital Maintenance and Public Transportation Contract. Mike, good to see you.
Good afternoon, Board. Mike Chavez with City Engineering. If you look at the summary sheet that I have for the contracts, I got one correction. If you look at the third item down, Road 8 Maintenance to reline Shelley Avenue, the contract should be T008820. Other than that, it's correct on the memo.
Okay.
Since, I don't know if you want me to go through all these since the CAC talked about.
I think I would highlight the critical issues, and then we can open it up for questions.
Okay. So we have, the first three are maintenance contracts to reline some corrugated metal pipe that's failing under the listed streets. They're looking at doing that work before they come and overlay. And then there are, what is it? 4 supply contracts for maintenance to provide the glass beads that they put in the epoxy paint when they stripe the roads. We have a construction contract for Kramer for the Academy over Cottonwood Creek Bridge. We're doing that as a construction manager, general contractor delivery system. So the contractor was brought on board during the design phase to help out. They negotiated a price to do the work based off the design. We are looking at awarding $6.4 million. We will be probably awarding another $1 million for some channel improvements later on. That design is being changed from a concrete channel to drop structures. But even with that change order, we still are looking at being under the overall budget that we've approved so far. Dublin widening, that's for land, that's for large permanent easement that we're obtaining from the Playhouse Church that we need so we can widen the roads right there near Powers. We have a construction contract to build the trail under Uinta Street along Monument Creek. And that one, the question was where the money came from. So basically, originally we had $1.1 million in the budget for general Greenway Trail improvements. And then in 2016, we allocated a little bit over $2 million for the pedestrian bridge. So the $700,000 is coming out of that original $1.1 million.
Okay.
So we're good there. And then the last one was just the renewal of many annual contracts that we are approving under their original terms and conditions.
Okay. And Reb, did you want to speak?
I have a question on that last one. Did he clarify for your records that it's both capital and maintenance, those 127 contracts?
The very last item on your list.
Yes, bottom line, 11.
Yes, I did correct on there.
I do see it on here, yes. Okay. Jim, it's my understanding that these are recommended for approval by the CAC?
That is correct.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve these projects?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? I was going to tell you, I told some folks that when we had our prior meeting with the executive committee, this would have been Mayor-elect Jure, I think it probably would have been in the late 70s, early 80s. I was president of the Pikes Peak Roadrunners, and I was leading a project to do an underpass under Uinta on the east side of the road. And it was going to be a very tough vote for city council to deal with. One of the council members, who was a professor at Colorado College, Councilman Byrd, was running the day of the election, and he had to cross Uinta. He tripped and fell in the middle of the street, and a car missed him by about 12 inches. It was approved unanimously. Fortunately, we didn't have to revert to that on this side.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's go to other reports. The City of Colorado Springs Transit Services Monthly Report.
Good afternoon, board members. Craig Blewett, Transit Services Manager with the City of Colorado Springs. Just a few comments to make with the report we have in your agenda packet. With regard to our ridership, the local fixed route service, we did have a slight decrease for a third month in a row, and I mentioned to you that when we saw that, we were going to keep an eye on it. We think there's a number of factors, but one of the factors we think that contributes to it is that the Manitou Incline has been closed since mid-August, and has just opened up, I think, towards the end of November. So hopefully in the month of December, we should see a rebound in ridership, because I think that reflects the success of the downtown Manitou shuttle and success in managing access to the incline, as well as managing Manitou's parking needs as well. The ADA service, we saw a sizable increase, 23% increase in October 17 compared to 2016. And for Vanpool, we actually saw an increase as well. That's the first increase month to month that we've seen in a while in our Vanpool program. Again, a number of factors. I think a contributing factor here is actually more accurate reporting. We recently did a press release. We've automated and improved our reporting process through what's called RidePro software. And so we're seeing more and more accurate reporting in terms of the use and participation in the van pool program. With regard to projects, what's in your packet is a description of the service changes we're proposing for 2018. And we have done a lot of community input already on that process. And we are also going to be doing more. So for spring service changes, we'll be doing public process in January, and the service changes that will be implemented in October once we have additional buses, that process will take place in June and July timeframe. What's mentioned in there is that that our budget had not been approved yet with the City of Colorado Springs, but that's happened yesterday. So thank you very much, City Council. So that included an additional $300,000 allocated by through the budget process to transit, and with that additional $300,000, we're going to do 15-minute bus frequency on both Route 27, which is South Academy, as well as Route 1, which is kind of the beeline service that serves southeast part of Colorado Springs at South Academy and Hancock to downtown. So we're able to do both of those services next year. So we're real happy about that, real pleased, and thank you, City Council, for that. And again, we're going to have some more public process as well, but that's what's going to be proposed going into that process. Just a couple other things to mention also in the City Council budget was the addition of a mobility manager position. So the city's share is the 20% match. The 8% is from federal funds that are allocated for that type of purpose. And the mobility manager is going to supervise our call center, which I'll talk about in a second, coordinate our various services, primarily our services for seniors and people with disabilities, and it'll also be a clearinghouse for trip information, ride information in El Paso County. So anywhere in the county, someone who is newly senior, newly disabled, or just new to the community and needs ride information, whether it be our fixed route bus service or ADA service or some of the services provided by Silver Key and others, that person will be handling that service for all of El Paso County. So we're real proud to be able to add that as well. With regard to the joint call center, I mentioned this before. I think the last 3 regional transportation plans from PPACG has recommended a call center that is the basically one call, one click for rides for people with disabilities and seniors in the community. You know, we fund with PPRTA funds and city funds 4 organizations: Silver Key, Amblicab, Fountain Valley Senior Center, and Community Intersections. Each of those agencies operates independently, and their customers call their various numbers. We're consolidating that, so there's one number to call, one ride, and then be able to. There's 2 benefits. One is it benefits the customer by having one number to call and to make that reservation. And the second benefit is better coordination between those services, so we can be more cost effective and provide more rides for the dollar. So we're really excited about that. That's going to start in earnest in July 1st. We have an RFP out right now, request for proposals, for a contractor to provide the that operations at the call center, provide the personnel, and we're going to be starting that in July. So we're real excited about that as well. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yes, Mayor?
So 2 quick ones about the shuttle. First one is, several of my constituents have asked if there's anything we can do about the air brakes, I guess it would be. Is that what you call when it just like releases that loud sound? As you can imagine, it carries quite far in the canyon, up Engelman Canyon there on Ruxton. So I'm just passing that along. I don't know if there's any sort of silencer. So there's that. And the other question I had, and if you have to get back to me, I fully understand, is the shuttle or actually the Route 3 stop on Old Man's Trail. Our public services director is here, Shelley is here, but some issues just regarding making sure that everything's okay because it is in the floodplain. I know we got through the Section 106 and all of that were cleared to transfer one of our old shelters to the new spot. Just wondered where we are in that process, if you know.
I know generally, so I hope I don't trip up a little bit. My understanding is Manitou has asked for some changes to the design of that stop, and we do have a contractor on board to do that work. We've determined that change can be done with that current contract. It's not what we call a cardinal change, requires us to go back out. And so I think we're just double checking on exactly what you want and get a good cost estimate and see if that's affordable in the budget that we are working with you with.
Shelley, thank you. Shelley, did you want to add to that? Can you add to that?
We're actually meeting with Metro staff tomorrow at the site at 10:30.
Great, great. Thank you
There's
so
information
much.
I didn't have. So.
Yes. Long time coming. We appreciate it.
Any other questions?
I'll just answer the air brakes. I think the air brakes is just one of those things that's associated with buses. And what's unfortunate, we're pursuing electric buses, and you still have air brakes. So, that's my understanding. But I will inquire further because that's an issue in other neighborhoods in the community as well.
Before you leave, Craig, I mentioned this to the executive committee, but Craig has been helping me, and Yolanda is aware of this. As you know, there's a $130 million children's hospital going up in Briargate and a women's hospital at Memorial. If you live in Manitou, if you live in southeast Colorado Springs, you can't get there. There is no bus transit there. Some of our people that live in the southeast part of Colorado Springs may only have one vehicle. If mom or dad is at Fort Carson, then how are they going to get up there? We're working closely on that. We think we'll have a solution for implementation in October of 2018. Our goal was to have it ready to go before the hospitals open. But I want you to know we do not anticipate any additional dollars being required from PPRTA. We're working with Penrose St. Francis. We're working with Children's Hospital. We're also working with and Memorial. We're also working with Pikes Peak Community College because a lot of the nursing programs are taking place at the Rampart campus, and there's no way that young people could get to that. And so it's a major transit problem that Craig has been over backwards to help us resolve this, but it's going to be a collaborative effort when we're through. We're going to reach out to Peak Vista as well.
Yes.
Anything you wanted to add to that? I just wanted you all, since you have a lot of transit responsibilities, I wanted you to be aware that that's being worked on.
Yeah, and well, thank you for your leadership, Councilman, as well. And, We've been working really hard in the last 8 years to improve the service in our existing service area, but this is really expanding our service, and we're trying to do it through partnerships. And the hospitals and Pikes Peak Community College have been tremendous partners as we move forward, just trying to find a way to make it work. And everyone recognizes the need, the value to the community, and now it's just a matter of finding a way to make it work, and we're working hard at that. So.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. I appreciate your hard work on that. Yes, David?
This is just more of an observation, and I think maybe putting this on Craig's mind for next year. The last 8 years, for those who have been here for a long time, I notice there has been a tremendous improvement in the availability of bus service. There is still, unfortunately, an underlying mentality within the community that we do not have a good bus system, which I think is reflective of why a lot of people are not taking advantage of the service. I'd be really interested in talking to you maybe offline or coming forward and saying, it's time to start saying that this is now an option within the community and starting to change the paradigm and the thinking in the community, that this is something that frankly is available, that is an amenity that doesn't have to be used by just certain segments of the community, right. but changing the thinking and saying that, and particularly going forward, when you look at the fact that by 2040 we're supposed to be roughly 1 million people, we need to start getting proactive in that now. So just to put that in your mind and thinking about what we can do to try to start changing the community's mindset, and say we really do have a good bus service, and I think you're nodding, so you know where I'm going with it.
I do, and just a quick comment or two. We're in the process right now of developing our 2018 marketing program, and in probably the last year or two, we've really focused on seniors and youth. Now with our College Student Pass program, we're hoping to expand that to Pikes Peak Community College in addition to UCCS and Colorado College.
with PPCC starting next year, that it's, millennials, young professionals, and that kind of focus. We do have a very large presence on Facebook and Twitter, social media, which is kind of, that's the territory of young professionals. In part, that's getting us there, but I think you're right. It's ready to take the next step. We have the real-time bus information on smartphones and the other things, and really just push out that message of how easy it is to take, and it's a viable option.
That's a good point. Thanks, David. Okay,
Thank you.
Let's go to, it was brought up earlier, but when we addressed the I-25 gap problem, we had lots of discussion about the dollars coming out of 2018 and 19, but we never put it in our minutes. So, Rick, did you want to do this? And then I think Mr. Waller would like to make a motion.
Yes, unfortunately, in the ballot language, the figure of up to $10 million was mentioned, and in the Second Amendment and restated establishing IGA, we mentioned $5 million a year for 2 years, but did not state which 2 years. So at this point, I think the best thing to do to formalize this, memorialize it, is to have the board approve a motion stating which 2 years, and all the discussion, as the board chair just mentioned, was around 2018, 2019. So that'd be the requested motion, unless you want to pick some other years.
Well, I was thinking maybe we could just retroactively pick 2 years where we know the budget is way above, and then maybe that's not the best idea. I move we approve agenda item 11B, declaring that 2018 and 19 is the budget years for the excess revenue for the I-25 gap project.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the City of Colorado Springs request for a revised board policy.
Mike Chavis, City Engineering. So we have a policy 12 allows us to grant higher change order limits to projects, specifically our larger ones, which we use to keep the project moving without having to come back to the board every month for change orders. Once we hit $100,000, we got to come back for every one under normal policy. And on these large projects, we usually hit that pretty quick. So in order to keep projects moving, we have policy 12, which grants us a waiver. We can go up to $100,000 per change order and 10% aggregate of the contract total. So we are requesting that the Academy Boulevard over Cottonwood Creek project be added to that list.
Okay. And Jim, I believe this is recommended for approval?
It is, sir.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve this board policy?
So moved.
And just pick one of them as the second, one as the motion, Bethany. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And opposed? Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. CDOT update of the I-25 gap. Do we have anyone here? There she is. Hi.
Sorry, I was just hidden back there. Hi, my name is Karen Rowe. I'm CDOT Director for Region 2, which is 14 counties in southeast Colorado and El Paso County. So I'm here to answer questions on the gap. I also wanted to come talk. Eventually, I want to come to either myself or my staff is back here. I have Mark Andrew, Jason Nelson, and Sasan Delshad, also as part of my project staff support, to talk about either this project, I-25 the Gap, or we have a ballot measure that's looking to come in November, so a list of projects from PPACG, but I want to make sure to keep you guys informed on what that's looking like and how it's progressing. And then also we do have some intergovernmental agreements going on, some revised with Cimarron and some with the Gap. So I want to make this a reoccurring update or answer questions as needed. Yeah, I think this is the first time CDOT's been here at your RTA board meeting, and so I just want to make sure we keep up this good relationship and communications.
Okay, Mr. Waller?
Thank you. And Karen, is CDOT participating in the statewide ballot initiative coming forward?
We are providing a list of potential ballot projects that, and we're working with whatever entity, and I don't really know what that is, that may be working to get the signatures and put it on the ballot.
What do you mean working with the entity gathering signatures, helping them in some way?
Well, we're just providing that list. So we're not, so they're looking to us like if we were to gather so many projects. So in fact, I just came down from Denver today where the Transportation Commission is looking at a potential list of projects, and they're trying to figure out, do we combine it with the Senate Bill 267 money for now, and then our government relations office is working with someone else on, okay, if you put this on the ballot, what project list do you want from us? And so we're coordinating with the commission to see what that project list would look like.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions that you have? Yes.
Yes, thank you. With regard to the toll lanes, I do recall, I think it was on the meeting on 8 November, our last PPRTA meeting, Karen, that you mentioned that the study is ongoing and that the report of it, the output of the report would be in January. And I'm wanting to reconfirm that, make sure I heard that correctly, and then also if there's going to be any other dates for public input going to CDOT, because I think you've had two that I was aware of, and they're both in past tense now.
So yeah, let me talk about I-25, the gap, because that one's moving fast. And so CDOT is committed to do whatever we can to widen that highway from Monument to Castle Rock as quickly as they can. And so we've been working to get construction funds to move that project forward. We had, so the the PEL, Plan Environmental Linkage, went from Monument to C470. That kicked off in January 2017 as a public meeting. We had a second public meeting in the spring. So that looked at a high-level, big picture of that corridor, again, Monument to C470. Based on those public meetings and some analysis that started to happen, we said, okay, an early action project is what we call it. We really need to widen that two-lane section between Monument and Castle Rock first. So we started doing survey, we started doing engineering, we started doing analysis along those lines, and we started to look for construction funds. And so that's where we applied for the infra grant and started to move forward. So the public meeting for what we call the early action environmental assessment was in December. So that kicks off the environmental assessment process. Now, based on the comments we got from that meeting, we have decided to look at three alternatives. One's called the no action, no build, don't do anything. You have to look at what that would look like in 2040. And then we're going to look at general purpose lanes, and we're going to look at express toll lanes. So we have made that decision as of yesterday that those are the three alternatives that will be looked at and evaluated and analyzed as part of the environmental assessment process.
Okay. So.
And in terms of public meetings, so the EA has two processes. You have a draft environmental assessment done, and then you have what's called, and then you have a public meeting. We think that's going to be May. And then we will have a decision document. Now, again, to move forward with the project, and as an EA, we're hoping that would be a FONSI. That's finding of no significant impact. But we can't predict that right now. It could, if it escalates too much, it would become an environmental impact statement. But right now, we're projecting that decision document could be a FONSI. However, I have been told from the project team that will solicit public comment on the corridor, telephone town halls in February, and additional online public meetings in March. And there'll be a formal public hearing on the environmental assessment in April. So those are three forums. We do have a website. If you put in I-25 South Gap, the website comes up, and it does have information on there. We're also trying to put together a map as to how do we outreach, who do we outreach to, our project team, in order to keep them informed, updated. And I'm here also to see what questions you have. I may or may not have the answers or suggestions on how does the project team work on that outreach effort for the project.
So just as a quick follow-up, on that website, at that location, that includes the postings for these telephone town halls or other opportunities for the public to interact with CDOT for you to obtain their input. So
I will
that all
verify
gets-
that.
Okay.
I don't have the answer to that for sure, but postings for town halls, my guess would be yes. And then opportunity for comment. I'm not sure if on the website that's available there or not. So,
You will let us know.
yes, I'll get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments at this time? All right. Thank you very much for coming.
Okay.
And reporting to us, and we look forward to continue to talking with you as we move forward on this and finding a great result.
Yeah, and we are committed to moving this forward as quickly as possible, and there's a lot of questions and answers and fact sheets on there, but I don't know.
I do have a question.
Yes. Yeah. David?
The gap is the current issue. Do you have any, does CDOT have any long-range plans for east-west corridors in Colorado Springs or in the area here? Long-range issues.
So yes, they're not completely connected. However, so west of here we have the US 24 Fonzie, so that goes from I-25 to Manitou. So there is an environmental NEPA document that shows what those improvements long-term would be. And then we've just finished what's, again, a PEL, is a planning environmental linkage study for US 24 East. But that, again, that goes from Powers up to Rama, I think. Rama, sorry. So up to Rama, sorry, I apologize for that. So we do have that study completed for that. We don't have anything in between. We have a Powers environmental assessment done.
And I'm thinking that just so we can keep on track long range, it would be a good idea to whatever information can be shared of these are the thoughts of CDOT down the road.
Yeah, and that's so the commission's looking at the proposed ballot projects that we would endorse as part of the ballot measure, but there's a lot of discussion that we still need to have with PPACG, so we're working to get on their TAC and their CAC and their board meeting for January on what we're looking at. But right now, it's US 24 East, US 24 West, Powers, and I-25. Sure. Those are the major ones. But there's too much needs in the area, even for the ballot initiative amount of money that we're getting. It's still not going to meet all those needs. And so it's definitely, and that's just for the Pikes Peak area. But it's over $500 million right now for the Pikes Peak area list of projects. And so that's where...
just frankly why we need to know what the needs are and all that. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Jim is the chair of our Citizens Advisory Committee.
Thanks for coming back, Karen. I just wanted to clarify something. None of the PPRTA projects should be targeted for this list. That's coming off the PPAC Transportation Plan, TIP, Transportation Improvement Plan. So I just wanted to make sure that's the regional planning documents, TIP, type of projects, which racks and stacks those, not PPRTA projects on this list.
Good clarification. Thanks, Jim. Okay. Karen,
Yeah, and that's all we're looking at is what projects would be part of that ballot initiative. But we just want the RTA to know what those projects are so we can keep that in mind and just know what's moving forward.
Well, thank you. And if there's anything we can do to be of help, we'd like to know that. Yes, Mayor?
Just real quick, we have, Manchester Springs City Council has 2 IGAs with CDOT on our agenda next Tuesday, so I just wanted to offer thanks for everything and the partnerships and relationships. And again, huge shout out to our Public Services Director, Shelley, and your whole staff. So it's been great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. We've enjoyed our partnership and working with you.
Great. Yes, please. Go ahead, Stan.
Actually, I would also like to echo that. Notwithstanding some other projects that we're working on, I appreciate CDOT's role in pursuing this wideband going up Ute Pass, and that's going to help citizens in the Ute Pass area ultimately gain access, and there will be a connection there to Woodland Park as well. So I do appreciate the work that CDOT and, in a partnership with other public agencies in our community, which includes also El Paso County, which ultimately is going to improve the service up there. But I know it's also a requirement that CDOT has to have that up there so you can do some of the things you've got to do on the highway, on Highway 24. So thank you for that.
Okay, great. I would assume that will allow Tyler to get to work faster. Yeah, okay, we want to make sure of that. So thank you very much, Karen.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Okay, let's go to the City of Colorado Springs monthly change order and property acquisition report. Mike, good to see you again. Long time no see.
Busy agenda. So have just a couple things. First one's a design change order for Kimberly Horn for some additional legal descriptions, some right-of-way work that we needed them to do for the Dublin widening. And then the other three are just some, I don't want to say small change orders, but for Wildcat on the Woodman Union widening project.
Okay, this is information only, so any questions? All right, let's keep going. Quarterly reports from member governments. Rick?
Rick Sonnenberg again. This is just an information item. The quarterly reports of project status come to you from the 5 member governments, and those are attached for the quarter number 3. And I'll be glad to take any questions.
Is there any questions for Rick on the governmental reports?
Thank you.
You did a great job.
Okay.
All right, let's go to, this is an action item. This is the City of Colorado Springs request for capital project line item transfer, which is also recommended by the CAC.
Mike Chavez again. So real quick, one of the RTA projects is the design of replacement bridges for the railroad over Tejon in Nevada, just south of downtown. And we were looking at doing that work probably in 2020 or later. This year, the Union Pacific came to the city and said, we're interested in replacing the Tejon Bridge because it's in bad shape. It was built in 1902. And so we have started working with them, and we have some money in the 2018 budget, but we didn't have anything in the 17 budget, and we actually had HDR through an on-call contract start doing some design work. We had them help us see if we should apply for a grant, and they did some work on that. And at a certain point, we decided it wasn't worth to pursue it, so we had them stop working. But there's some preliminary work that we're doing to kind of get that project kicked off. So we're requesting some money be put into the budget this year so we can pay for that part of that contract that we initiated for $32,000.
Is there any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
I'd move.
Is there a second?
Second?
All right. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? Thanks, Mike.
All right, thank you.
Okay, let's go to the administrative action and reports. Recently, we have some openings on the CAC. Recently, Mr. Waller, Jim Godfrey, and myself did interviews, and we have some recommendations for you. Rick, would you like to report that out?
Yes. In your packet on the page 2 of the memo is the list, the slate that the board subcommittee of the 2 members of the board and the chair of the CAC are recommending to you. Number 1, David Chestnut for reappointment to a second 2-year term as an at-large alternate. Brian West for reappointment to his second 3-year term as an at-large regular. Rick Hoover to move from an at-large alternate to the at-large regular seat being vacated by Dr. Jim Null. Mr. Ed Dills to fill the 1-year remaining term for the seat being vacated as an at-large alternate by Rick Hoover, who just moved to the at-large regular seat in number 3 above. And Mr. Carlos Perez to fill the entire 2-year term being vacated by Jake Michael as an at-large alternate. So that's slate of 5.
Okay. Those are what we're recommending to you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And will you second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, good. Let's go to the appointment and reappointment of board members.
Rick Sonnenberg again. This is simply an information item to remind board members that your terms on the PPRTA board are a calendar year at a time, and that you need to be reappointed by your individual city councils or board of county commissioners or board of trustees, and then somehow let me know so I can forward it on to the board. Colorado Springs City Council did such, and that's attached in your packet, that the same City of Colorado Springs members have been appointed by the Colorado Springs City Council for 2018. Merv Bennett, Yolanda Avila, David Geislinger, with alternates Don Knight and Richard Scorman. So they'll go in the minutes and in the file. So you other four, please let us know what your boards appoint. The other reminder is officers. Your bylaws require that at your January meeting, you'll pick your 3 officers for the upcoming calendar year. The chair this time around will need to come from the county directors. Vice chair will come from the city of Colorado Springs directors. Then you'll have a board secretary. And you might have a new PPACG executive director by then, but we'll see what the timing is.
Just for Yolanda and I do recommended Dave Geislinger for the vice chair. So
okay,
that will be what we'll be recommending next month. So.
Whether he likes it or not.
Whether he likes it. Yes, it's unanimous.
So
okay, anything else?
No action right now, just information.
Okay. All right. Let's. Do we have any? I don't believe we have an executive session, but I need to go to you first, Jennifer.
Right. I have nothing to report in executive session. Just some status updates related to those same topics. The briefing for the Walmart litigation was completed on Monday with Walmart's reply brief. At this point, both Walmart and the PPRTA have requested oral arguments, so those will be set by the Court of Appeals sometime in the next couple of months. And your litigator, Peter Forbes' best guess is that the Court of Appeals will rule sometime in the next 5 to 6 month time range. As far as other status reports on legislation, which is the other executive session topic, we have heard some rumblings of potential legislation that would impact the PPRTA. You did just approve in your budget $50,000 for a lobbyist, so I'll be working with your executive committee, Rick, in getting a lobbyist on board for the PPRTA. And Rick might have more to say about that. I think I just took part of his words.
We did do this last time when it got stopped in committee. We feel that we need to be very proactive, and so Mr. Waller and I have recommended that Rick move forward since we did approve it in the budget.
Just a little background. 2 sessions ago, the January through May of 2016, a local representative, Lois Landgraf, representing the Fountain area, introduced a bill that would harm the PPRTA's taxing authority wherever a non-member municipality, such as Fountain or other non-member municipalities, would annex on top of an RTA member unincorporated county and a non-member municipality annexed on top of that ground. Her bill at the time was designed to eliminate the taxing authority of the PPRTA member unincorporated county wherever a non-member municipality annexed on top of that. The PPRTA board at the time mobilized all of staff, consulting attorney, the litigator attorney, and the county's lobbyist, as well as the city of Colorado Springs lobbyist, a very significant team to fight that, and we were successful in killing that bill in committee 2 sessions ago. Representative Landgraf did not introduce that bill in January of 2017, but she's indicated to PPACG staff that she is going to introduce that bill shortly. So The board has had $50,000 budgeted in admin as a line item on the contingency that Representative Landgraf would introduce her bill again. Of course, I just said it didn't happen last year, so we didn't use any of that last year. So that unused money just went back to the pot and then was rebudgeted. But now that she's indicated, Representative Landgraf, has indicated that she's going to introduce that bill again, it's time to activate the same team that we had in January through May of 2016, and I'm recommending that we add to that an independent lobbyist to add to the team.
And I want to add to that also, in that for those of you who might be new, PPRTA invested about 24 to 26 million in the road that goes right in front of this property. So we have a major investment down there that needs to be repaid. So that's why it matters to us too.
And if this bill passes, it costs us millions.
Mm-hmm.
Not only this RTA, but there's 4 other active RTAs. The Baptist Road RTA still exists, but it is not active. But there's 4 others. We will be contacting them to assist us, as they did assist us 2 years ago.
This is a result of what's called a flagpole annexation that went 8 miles up the interstate and then captured the property across from Pikes Peak Community College. So that's the nature of the situation. Any other comments or questions? Jennifer, is there anything else that you... Yes.
There is a question about being reactive if this proposal is made by the representative from Fountain, who also happens to be an entity that has filed an amicus brief in the Walmart case. Any idea about using the lobbyist to be proactive? Just the idea of being proactive and having one of our local representatives propose a counter amendment to say anything like that happens, it's got to be, you can't do this.
Well, yeah, I mean, and certainly that's a possibility, running other legislation. But I think, we talk about kind of being reactive to this, but I would actually couch it in actually the proactive terms and how we're dealing with that. Because we don't want to wait till this bill gets drafted, gets through committee, and gets to the floor to try to kill it. That work needs to be happening right now, today, as the legislation is being drafted.
Oh, I agree with that, but I'm also thinking that part of that proactiveness is to say, can we get somebody
To codify something in
to codify
statute.
something that's the opposite?
Well, and
That's a possibility.
To that end, I think that this is all hinging upon a lack of clarity in state statute about how those overlapping jurisdictions interplay. And I think that clarification could be the proactive stance, and to segregate, each of these entities are separate.
Well,
That's definitely a possibility.
And this might be something that would be appropriate maybe for a future executive session once we have a lobbyist on board. I don't know what the political climate is or what the lobbyist team will think this time around. 2 years ago when we killed this, really that effort was very successful because we were hinging our efforts on why are we running legislation when we have an active court case that's going to resolve this issue. So I don't know if that's going to be, I don't know what the strategy will be. I'm not the lobbyist. So, yeah.
We can talk. I think that's a good
Tyler?
Jennifer, you might be able to clarify this a little bit, but my understanding was, yes, this is important. The legislation that was proposed was obviously impactful to this RTA and potentially to other RTAs, but I think my recollection is that there's even a higher level that could have impact to many other types of special districts and such like that, that if we can ratchet it up even a higher level to make that clarity, I think then there will be more folks on board to protect their own boundaries, and it becomes not just the RTA versus Fountain or RTAs versus unincorporated jurisdictions, but this is a clarity in state statute to say if you have a boundary, it is your boundary.
It is definitely, there's different ways to slice the question. I mean, you can look at it as just the fine point of a a question under the RTA law, which wouldn't be a broader picture. You could obviously go into other statutes and try to clarify it another way. Without having seen a proposed bill, I'm not sure what Representative Landgraf is even thinking this time around. So it's all, at this point, it's speculative in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's good discussion, and so we'll just keep updating you on a monthly basis as to our progress, but we wanted you to know that we've authorized Rick to move forward with hiring a lobbyist.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any member announcements? Mayor-elect Giray, are you going to be joining this board soon?
I am in January.
All right, we'll have a lot of fun at your expense. We always like to, we like to have fun at the newbies, you know.
I can't wait.
Okay.
First month drinks are on him, right?
Yeah, that's right. Any other comments?
Yes, I do have one additional announcement, and it's kind of an important one because on the West Side Avenue Action Plan, this is the West Colorado Avenue project, there was a safety issue found with the current bridge on the road that is a concern for the safety of citizens, and that road is closing in 2 hours. It's whatever. Yeah, it's the bridge.
Yes,
it's the bridge.
To answer your question.
Oh, if I said something wrong there, sorry. It's the bridge that has the safety issue, and it's going to close today at 5, and people will not be able to traverse across that bridge. And it looks like it's going to remain closed until Friday. And I think what they're doing is they're going to be shoring up that bridge to allow it to be placed back into serviceable condition. There's an obvious reason for this. I mean, our number one requirement is public safety. So in order to do that, we've got to close this bridge and take care of this. And it's going to inconvenience a lot of people, but we got to do it because of public safety, and that will close at 5 today. So
Mayor Nicoletta, I would recommend you take Highway 24. That's what I'm going to do.
That is the Stan Vanderwerf honorary closure.
Yeah. All right. Before we finish, Mayor, I just want to thank you for your service again. You've been a delight to serve with, and you're going to be greatly missed, and we will have some fun at Mayor Giray's expense, but we would have done that anyway. So thank you for your incredible service. You've been a great member of the team. Thank you. All right, with that, we're adjourned.
That would be a poor choice on his part. You should call me on his own.
How are you? Thank you.
I know that's true. I know that